Now, this situation just keeps getting worse for Diddy. His legal troubles were already bad, but now one of his own lawyers has decided to walk away from his defense team. Anthony Rico, a high profile criminal defense attorney, officially filed a motion to withdraw from the case. And he didn't just quietly step away, he made it clear that he could not, under any circumstances, continue representing Diddy. That's a wild statement coming from a lawyer whose entire job is to defend people, no matter how bad their reputation is. Criminal defense attorneys have represented some of the most infamous figures in history, yet Rico decided that Diddy's case wasn't worth it. That alone speaks volumes about how serious this situation is. For over a year now, Diddy has been at the center of some of the darkest allegations in the entertainment industry. He went from being a hip-hop mogul to being labeled as the ringleader of an alleged criminal enterprise. The fall from grace has been nothing short of shocking, and with every new revelation it just gets worse. Now, with a lawyer of Rico's caliber dropping out, it raises the question, what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Because when even your own defense team doesn't want to be associated with you, things are beyond bad. For years, there were whispers about Diddy, rumors about his business dealings, his connections, his lifestyle, but money and power kept him protected. That is, until now. Law enforcement has finally caught up with him, and the allegations are too massive to ignore. Diddy is facing some of the most serious charges imaginable. He was arrested last year, and according to multiple sources, he's being accused of running an operation designed to satisfy his personal desires, using fear, intimidation, and violence to keep victims silent. These aren't just minor accusations. If convicted on all charges, he could be looking at life in prison. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. This is a criminal case that could bring down one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. And with the way things are unfolding, it seems like the walls are closing in on Diddy faster than anyone expected. The fact that his own legal team is now fracturing makes it even more clear. This is not a fight Diddy is guaranteed to win. The question now is, how much more is going to come out before this case goes to trial? The news of Anthony Rico stepping away from the case sent shockwaves through the legal and entertainment worlds. Rico isn't just any lawyer. This is someone who has defended some of the most notorious figures in criminal history. His track record includes being involved in the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombings trial, where Osama bin Laden's name was front and center. He has handled multiple federal death penalty cases and even represented an NYPD detective in the controversial Sean Bell case. This is the kind of attorney who takes on the most difficult, high-stakes cases imaginable. And yet, even he said no to Diddy. If that doesn't tell you how bad this case is, nothing will. Because if someone who has built their career on representing high-profile criminals wants nothing to do with this, it means something behind the scenes is far worse than we know. This wasn't just about legal strategy. Rico's decision to leave raises bigger questions. Was there something about this case that even he couldn't justify? Did he see something so damaging that he refused to be part of it? Whatever the answer is, one thing is certain. Diddy is running out of options. It turns out Rico didn't just leave on a whim. There was a major internal power struggle within Diddy's legal team. Sources have confirmed that Rico and lead attorney Mark Ifrah had been clashing for months over how to handle the sex trafficking charges. Ifrah's approach has been to outright deny everything, claiming that the encounters were fully consensual. But Rico had a different legal strategy in mind. What that strategy was isn't entirely clear, but what we do know is that he was never given the control to execute it. On top of that, Rico strongly believed that Diddy's team wouldn't be ready for the May trial date and wanted to push for more time, but his co-counsel refused to delay. This disagreement created even more tension, and eventually, Rico found himself unable to continue. And here's the most bizarre part. Rico reportedly wasn't even allowed to speak to Diddy directly. Imagine being on a legal team, representing one of the most high-profile cases in entertainment history, and you can't even talk to your own client. That was the final straw for him, and that's when he decided to walk away for good. Diddy's legal troubles don't exist in a vacuum. The case against him could have ripple effects far beyond just his own downfall. Some are speculating that this trial could expose even bigger names in Hollywood, similar to what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. For years, there have been rumors about secret parties, industry scandals, and power abuse behind the scenes. And with the way this case is shaping up, there's a real possibility that other powerful figures could be dragged into the mess. Diddy has been known to keep records, tapes, recordings, and other evidence from his wild parties. If any of that surfaces, it could be game over, not just for him, but for others in his circle as well. Right now, his legal team is trying to spin the narrative, claiming that the videos in the government's possession prove his innocence. But if there's more out there, if more evidence comes to light, Diddy might not be the only one going down. The comparisons between Diddy's situation and Jeffrey Epstein's case are impossible to ignore. Epstein was a billionaire with powerful connections, and for years, he operated in the shadows, seemingly untouchable. But when law enforcement finally caught up with him, everything came crashing down. Epstein's private flight logs, his hidden cameras, his secret tapes, all of it exposed a network of people who were once considered untouchable. Now, with Diddy's case, similar questions are being raised. Are there tapes? Who else is involved? And if this investigation continues to dig deeper, will we see other celebrities and powerful figures get exposed? There's still so much we don't know, but one thing is certain. This case is bigger than just Diddy. And if history has taught us anything, it's that once the cracks start forming, they only get bigger. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding this case is the evidence that law enforcement has gathered. The authorities aren't just relying on witness testimonies, they reportedly have hard evidence. And that's what makes this situation even more dangerous for Diddy. According to federal sources, investigators have obtained electronic records, phone data, and even surveillance footage from various locations tied to Diddy. This isn't just hearsay. This is the kind of evidence that can make or break a case. And if the government is confident enough to move forward, that suggests they believe their case is airtight. The most shocking part? Rumors suggest there may be video recordings that Diddy himself kept, recordings that were never meant to see the light of day. If those tapes contain anything incriminating, there's no way his legal team can spin this in his favor. This isn't just about defending against accusations anymore. It's about whether or not the evidence will expose an entire operation. And if the government truly has what they claim, Diddy's days of running the industry with unchecked power might be over for good. What's truly suspicious is how quiet Hollywood has been about Diddy's downfall. In the past, when celebrities faced criminal charges, the industry either distanced itself immediately or made public statements of support. But this time, silence. Major artists who once praised Diddy as a mentor are suddenly nowhere to be found. People who were in his inner circle have either disappeared or are refusing to comment. That alone speaks volumes. Some believe this silence isn't just fear, it's strategy. If Diddy truly had connections to others in power, there's a chance that people behind the scenes are working to keep their own names out of this mess. Because if Diddy goes down and starts naming names, it could bring an entire network crumbling down with him. The entertainment industry has always protected its own, but at what cost? If this case exposes an underground system that's been operating for years, Hollywood's biggest players might have no choice but to turn their backs on Diddy. And when that happens, he'll be completely alone. In the past few months, something interesting has been happening. People who used to be close to Diddy are suddenly speaking out. And what they're saying isn't good for him. Former employees, artists, and business partners have started sharing their own disturbing experiences. Some are revealing details about how Diddy allegedly controlled his empire with fear and manipulation. Others are hinting that there were things happening behind closed doors that they were too afraid to speak about before. One former bodyguard even claimed that Diddy had entire sections of his house that were off limits to everyone but a select few. What was happening in those rooms? And why did people feel the need to keep quiet for so long? This pattern is familiar. It's the same thing that happened in past scandals when people realized the person in power was no longer untouchable. Now that Diddy's empire is collapsing, those who were once afraid are finally finding the courage to speak. And their stories might be what seals his fate. With the walls closing in, there's one possibility that can't be ignored. Will Diddy try to save himself by cutting a deal? If the evidence is as strong as it seems, his lawyers might be looking at plea options behind the scenes. Plea deals usually mean one thing: giving up information. And in a case like this, that could mean exposing people who were part of his alleged operation. If Diddy has dirt on other industry elites, he might try to use that as leverage to reduce his own sentence. The problem? If he goes that route, he puts himself in serious danger. The people who have protected him for decades won't take kindly to being exposed. And if this situation really does involve a larger network, flipping could turn him into a target. So the real question is, does Diddy value his freedom more than his silence? Because if he decides to talk, this case could explode into something far bigger than anyone ever expected. One of the turning points in this entire scandal was when Cassie, Diddy's former partner, filed a lawsuit against him. She wasn't just suing for financial damages, she was making allegations that shocked even those who thought they had seen it all. Cassie claimed that during their relationship, Diddy used power and intimidation to keep her under control. She described situations that painted a disturbing picture of what was happening behind the scenes. And while Diddy's legal team initially denied everything, the lawsuit was settled almost immediately. Now, why would someone who claims they're innocent rush to settle a case like that? The only logical explanation is that Diddy didn't want more details becoming public. He had the money to make it go away, but the damage was already done. Cassie's case opened the floodgates. Once her allegations became public, other women started coming forward with similar stories. And that's when everything changed, because when one person speaks out, it gives others the courage to do the same. If there was ever a moment that signaled the end of Diddy's reign, it was the FBI raid. Federal agents didn't just show up, they stormed multiple properties looking for evidence. The raid was carried out with precision, and insiders say it wasn't just about Diddy's case. There's speculation that the authorities were looking for connections to something even bigger, something that could tie Diddy's alleged activities to a larger criminal operation. The fact that federal agents were willing to go this far suggests they had more than just speculation to go on. Law enforcement doesn't raid homes unless they're confident they'll find something. And with how secretive Diddy's lifestyle has been, the question is, what exactly did they uncover? Whatever it was enough to shake the industry. Because from that moment on, Diddy was no longer just another powerful figure in Hollywood. He was a man under siege. One of the biggest questions people have is, why now? Why, after all these years, is Diddy finally being taken down? The rumors about him have been circulating for decades, but only now is law enforcement stepping in. Some believe it's a shift in power dynamics. The entertainment industry is no longer able to protect its biggest names the way it used to. Social media has changed everything. Secrets don't stay hidden forever anymore. Others think this is part of something much bigger. Diddy's downfall could be the start of a massive cleanup operation in Hollywood. If there are more figures like him operating behind the scenes, this case might just be the beginning. Whatever the reason, one thing is certain. Diddy is no longer the untouchable mogul he once was. And if the media is finally willing to expose the truth, he won't be the last. As Diddy's trial date approaches, the stakes have never been higher. His entire legacy is on the line. If he's convicted, he won't just lose his freedom. He'll go down in history as one of the most disgraced figures in entertainment. The evidence is piling up. The witnesses are ready. And unless something drastic changes, Diddy might not have a way out of this. But the real impact of this case goes beyond him. If he's found guilty, it will send a message to the entire industry. No one is above the law. Whether Diddy fights this case or takes a deal, one thing is certain. His career will never recover. The music mogul who once ruled the industry is now facing the biggest battle of his life. The people who once stood by him are vanishing. The empire he built is collapsing. And as the truth continues to unfold, the world will finally see Diddy for who he really is. This isn't just the end of a career, it's the end of an era. And when the dust settles, Hollywood will never be the same again.